I think I'm trying to create some kind of space, some kind of, I don't know, made of glass, and to invite the audience in this space. So I feel like we are sitting together.
This conversation with pianist Alexander Malofeev is an in-depth look at the life of a young rising star. Here at the famous Verbier Festival, Alexander reflects on his life as a musician and finding his musical voice.
Sasha, when you were here at Verbier last year, I was watching the broadcast on Medici, and on stage you were, if I perceived correctly, being very playful with what you were hearing and also taking big risks. What was it about that occasion that made you seemingly so joyful?
In this period of my life, I feel quite comfortable on stage. Probably more comfortable than out of stage. Huh. I think it was a nice concert with an incredible connection with the audience. It's very important, and I felt it here.
So finding this comfort on stage, is this something which was growing for you? I'm thinking about that video when you were, I think, 10 or 11, the Little Red Riding Hood, Rachmaninoff. Mm-hmm. You seemed to be very much in the zone, and your concentration was like actually kind of scary. Were you always comfortable on stage?
No. I mean, it's comes with experience. So I mean, of course, Little Red Riding Hood, it was a huge thing for me. Now, I mean, playing on stage, it's more like a way of life, and I'm sure I'll come back to most of pieces I played in early childhood, because it's just not a finished project for me, because any genius who plays any Rachmaninoff concerto at the age of 3, even it's like the most talented musician of the future, it's still just the playing the things which the teacher said to you. It's kinda monkey playing, even if it's on the highest musical art level. It's still kind of playing things which your teacher showed to you. And of course, when you're 10, you can't understand all the art things teacher tell you. You can't understand all the technical things. It's just, you need time, and even if I play exactly the same interpretation now of the piece which I played at the age of 10, now it's mine. I mean, now I thought about it. I have an idea. I have an interpretation. There is no interpretation at the age of 12 of any musician. It's my opinion. Even if I love this recording so much, it's my favorite recordings of mine, and the only one which I can listen to.
So now that you're coming up with your own artistic ideas, you're living them on stage, does it ever happen that you're learning a piece and that you run into a musical or interpretive problem that you have to solve away from the piano?
I think that solving problems away from the piano is part of profession which exists constantly. You always grow up as a person, as a thinker, if I can say. So listening to the recordings, it's obvious, but also reading and sharing opinion with other musicians and finding an inspiration. course, here in Verbier, it's kind of easy to find an inspiration because it's everywhere. And so many musicians, but sometimes coming back to the piece for 10 times, you must a little bit forget about everything you did before and try for at least a couple of days, like when I play some old concertos in my repertoire, for a couple of days trying to explore it from the beginning, trying to explore the recordings and things which people wrote about this concerto.
Sasha, speaking about the inspirations, who were some of your musical heroes, and did you find yourself trying to imitate these large personalities?
Rachmaninoff was my hero number one always, and I tried a lot, and I'm still trying to imitate. There is nothing bad about imitation, and I'm still trying to imitate Rachmaninoff and Michelangelo and Horowitz. Glenn Gould was always a great inspiration for me. I mean, it's not a crime to imitate them, and it's my biggest dream to hear Rachmaninoff in live. Of course, it's impossible to imitate, but that's why I always have to do some things of my own. But listening to them, it's such a great inspiration of my entire life, to the old musicians. Thinking about this connection to them, it's not so far away. I mean, it's just 100 years ago. There are so many people who saw him, I mean, even in person or like through the one handshake. And so there are still so many stories, still so many things left from him. Unfortunately, not so many recordings, but still Rachmaninoff was a very inspirational personality as well. It's impossible to lose this legacy because it's just much bigger than you and I can imagine.
Let's talk about the headspace of the performer before you go to stage. I know that with actors, they can draw on method acting, Stanislavski method. For a musician, how can you most effectively activate yourself emotionally to reach your highest musical level?
In my case, it's just better to stay calm before performance. I like sleeping before performance. I like being alone because anyway, while going on stage, I'll get this adrenaline emotion. I think I'll get anything I need on stage. I don't need anything extra.
When you're performing, is it you and the music, and then the audience is there? Are you playing directly to the audience? Are you playing for yourself?
I think I'm trying to create some kind of space, some kind of, I don't know, made of glass, and to invite the audience in this space. So I feel like we are sitting together.
What happens if we feel like we haven't given our own best performance?
Any musician would understand that playing the concert is kind of evolutionary way of going from one concert to another. And in this case, of course, you can play the best each concert. Unfortunately, the audience usually doesn't know, and of course expecting the best. But I mean, usually it's not the best. It's music. I mean, it exists just at a moment. It's a pity. I mean, when especially when it's not happening in a technical moment, like with an orchestra or in a chamber music, lack of rehearsal, or some, I don't know, some phone in an audience or some light issue. But in general, yeah, I think looking in the future, seeing the program somewhere, like in a year, how it can be in a year, in 30 years. There are some crazy pieces like Rachmaninoff Short Piano Concerto, and I'm still thinking, I'm learning it. I played it for dozens of times, but I'm still learning it, and I'm always thinking about how it can be in years.
I know that you told me that practicing brings you great joy, but one thing that fascinates me is that learning how to practice is a subject that we're constantly growing with. It seems like you had a really, really involved education, probably very strict, very demanding. Did you always feel like you knew how to practice in the most efficient way?
I think I always knew how to practice because of quite a control from my teacher in Russia. I was with the same teacher, Elena Berezkina, for 12 years. So it was really a work of two. But now I'm thinking that maybe when I practiced for 10 hours when I was 15, now for me it's maybe a little too much, because now I know by myself exactly what I need to do, how much time do I need for each piece. So I'm just practice better, I think.
Sasha, did you come from a musical family?
No, nobody in my family is musician, and my brother and sister, they started with me at a music school. It's a small, nice school next to our home, and we had some pressure from the beginning from our parents, but when we were like 12, we had a choice, and I said no, and I think it's the right decision. And I mean, I said yes. I just couldn't imagine my life without practicing. I wasn't a very rebellious child, so my parents told me to play music. I did it, and I just had some plans. I mean, some repertoire plans, some concerts plans, and it was kind of obvious for me, for my parents, for my teacher, that at least I have to continue. Now I start practice like in the afternoon, and practice just till I get tired. If I'm tired, don't practice, because it's not helpful anymore.
Do you also take frequent breaks throughout the day if you're doing a 10-hour day?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, of course, especially now when I have like a couple of days in a normal way of life in Berlin per month. So I don't have a schedule of practicing, but I always think that if you don't want, you don't need. It's something which I got recently, because of course when you're like 8 years old, you want to play football and chat with friends, and if you don't want to practice, you still have to practice. It's an obvious thing, especially in Russia. So I'm happy that it's my choice now, and it gives me joy.
So, about the practice and what we aim to achieve, we have a very strong musical vision of what we hope to reach. But then when we bring it to the stage, are you trying to just reach that as well as possible? Or are you also departing from that and creating something new? When I've been witnessing you perform, especially at very close range in Buffalo, I could see that you're reacting on the moment with a very active listening.
I can say I'm very much in a moment on stage, especially playing recitals, because it's a great and very important ability to achieve, to react on stage, to feel the audience, because somehow all the people, they are in a different mood, they have their own problems in their lives, and going to a concert is an opportunity to forget for a couple of hours about our lives.
How would you know when too much is too much with an overall season?
Probably if I don't want to go on stage anymore before the concert and I have to, it's a moment. But I've never had this moment before, but I'm a little bit afraid of this moment, actually. But I'm ready to have less concerts or have a break or anything, but I've just started, so I don't feel it yet.
Yeah. Is there an anxiety to step back from a trajectory that's going up? We had no choice during the pandemic, but let's say you have a choice in saying no to a concert. In today's music world, there's a pressure, maybe, to always go up and take a bigger and bigger opportunity.
There is always anxiety in the life of any musician to have a lot of concerts, to have not enough concerts, to have too much, to have something with your hands. I mean, to lose. I mean, this feeling, this inspiration to overburn and. I mean, I just play. So I try to think less about those things. If I have too many concerts, I know. I mean that I'll have to say no to something. But I've just started. As I said, I had these COVID years, and I moved out from Russia to Germany, and now I'm traveling a lot and. Just so delighted.
Sasha, I've been following the press reviews about you in the last few years. When you hear, for example, European press comparing you to this lineage or the great Russian piano school, what does that feel like to you? Is it a responsibility? Is that something that you try to live into?
I think it's a responsibility to be in this line in general, just because I was born there, and of course in Russia it is a great deal, Russian piano school, all these trees of who came from Liszt or from Nigals or from Rubinstein's, so I feel this responsibility, but not because it's written in the reviews. As you said, it was much earlier in my mind, just starting my education.
So then there was another specific review that I'm thinking about, where they described, and I'm paraphrasing, they were so moved by this occasion that they said, everything that came before this was before Malafeev, and everything after this evening is after. What does it surprise you that people are reacting like this to your playing?
Okay, about this phrase I just can't speak seriously. It's especially here in Verbier when there are so many great musicians. Of course, if you can imagine, like Pletnev, who is the greatest living pianist. For me, reading this like nothing exists before his concert is kind of joke. Of course, it's better to have good reviews than bad reviews. That's what I think. But in general, I don't care so much, and at least try not to care.
And finally, Sasha, we know that despite our audiences and the connection we have with them, it can be a very lonely life. What's the role of friendship in your life?
The role of friendship is one of the most important things for me, because having home in Berlin now is something new, because I just moved from Russia and my family are there, and having friends here in Berlin, in Germany, in the world, It's something which helps a lot in a personal and professional way. Anyway, despite everything I said before, there are sometimes not nice moments. There are sometimes not nice mood. Sometimes I'm tired after the flight. And having somebody you can call, you can trust, you can always have is one of the most important things.
Sasha, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. Thank you for what you share in your music, and thank you for your friendship.
Thank you.
Thank you.